it's the word, to kind of adapt something for the ends of the translation here and there. So it was a real, we sort of created a new edition of the book that also influenced the German paperback, right? Ultimately.
Yeah, we did. I translate as well, but the other way around. So when Ross and I met, I thought I was a translator, and then we started working on this book. And then, we've met a couple of times before, and we talked about the book before it was clear that it would be published. There's money for the translation, and so it took us a while. So he found out what I wanted to do with this book and where it came from, and I got to know him a little better and where he came from or comes from, and what's his concept or idea of translation is. And I have to say that I had to revise my idea of what a translator is after working with him on this book. At least I work differently now, because he's so very detailed and meticulous, and he goes through every sentence so very often and gets it. He understands this book much better than I do, actually. I think the text that is on the page, because I have all these ideas, all the chapters that were left out and cut, and I know the characters from other stories, and he doesn't. But the text on the page, he knows it so well, much better than I or my German editor, for example, does. So I had to revise I think the concept of me being a translator. I think I realized I wasn't before I was working with him on this, because I watched it. So for me, it was throughout positive work. But on the other hand, it was, for him, it must be a nightmare to have me sitting there, looking over his shoulder, being able to understand the language, and trying to find flaws in his work. And it must have been a nightmare for you, but still, for me, it was also a lot of work. I had thought this, I could forget this book. I would be done with it at one point, and I simply wasn't, because he sent me 700 something emails with questions.
Yeah, you can kind of haunt the author, late at night, knock around like a poltergeist, in his brain.
And it was always like that, because of the time difference. I wake up in the morning in Germany, and he's been working 6 hours while I was sleeping. So I open my email account, and there says Ross Benjamin, 14 emails, some of which contain 50 questions. So this kind of killed my plan for that.
This is why it was unpleasant for you and pleasant for me. It's purely the time difference, whereas I would wake up and find all my questions illuminated. First thing in the morning, my work for the day was already done before I even woke up. It was all happening while I was peacefully sleeping, and at night I could go to bed knowing that Tomas would be toiling away at the next set of questions.
Yeah, next time you go to Germany and then it doesn't work that well. No, I really have to say, I think the translation is amazing, and what's even better was that I could participate in it, and I fully understand that the book can't be the German book. It has to be changed in little parts, little details, and there are several kinds of there are several difficulties that Ross had with this book, and we found solutions for them, and it was really interesting to see him find the solutions.
Wasn't it so that almost everything that we adapted in this interventionist manner were in the New York chapters? Speaking of place, was there anything that we made that sort of a overhaul, or where we really, intervened that didn't have to do with New York, which is where I'm from as well, New York City?
This was really embarrassing for me. We changed a lot in the New York chapters.
I don't think it's really embarrassing.
No, it is, but because because he is from New York, and I write for a German audience that doesn't know New York, and I would simply do some things that no German would catch, but any New Yorker would, or any American, I think.
Example. Say an example. Give an example.
Oh yeah, an example would be this is basketball sequence when they play basketball on an outside court on West 4th Street in New York, and they use in a German version there's English slang, or what I want the German audience to believe is slang.
I mean, I think, to be fair, to not make it sound like you're being more naive than you are. I think you need to write it. You need to only use English that you can be pretty confident most Germans will understand. So you keep it pretty basic. You can't get too nuanced about the locality, the regionalisms, and so on.
So in the German version ends with somebody saying that the rules of West Village basketball, he says. And anyone who's been to the West Village knows that you can get overpriced cupcakes there and expensive coffee, but it's not a tough basketball environment at all. So
there are some amazing basketball games there, but they're not exactly pickup games.
Yeah, and it's not it's not. I mean, West Village is something. It's not the label of. It's not like Rocket Park or so. So in the American edition, we simply erased that sentence and said street ball. So
rules of street ball.
These were things like that. Or this other chapter where I think that was mentioned in the interview as well, where they have this pizza thing. They buy a pizza. There's this a love scene in it. Man and a woman come home, stop at a pizza place, buy a pizza, then go to their place, hang the pizza comes in the bag. They hang the pizza bag on a door handle while kissing, and so Ross.
Later the pizza's intact.
Later the pizza's intact. So Ross writes me an email. First of all, in New York, pizza comes in a box. So also, if you put the pizza in a plastic bag, the cheese comes off.
Right, the laws of gravity do apply in New York.
Third thing, you don't hang a bag on a door handle because it's always doorknobs. Usually, well, very often it's doorknobs on the outside of doors. So we would find lots, or he would find these tiny mistakes that maybe an American audience would spot, but
also probably not. It's almost like the kinds of things readers would often read over, probably. But it was also, I mean, in a larger sense, it was also the flavor of New York. That being, if I had been a Brazilian translator, translated to Portuguese, I probably, might have reacted differently to the portrayal of Brazil and felt as a. So when you said the places are the most autobiographical, that's probably the only part of the translation where I got to be a little autobiographical in my technique and draw on my own observations too, just to, recalibrate a little bit some of the New York stuff. But that was an interesting way that I think we worked together.
What's also interesting is that in German there's always English to create a sense of weirdness or foreignness, and this of course completely disappears in the English version, and so he had to find ways to make this weirdness appear again without having English in italics.
And also I had to translate, like what JFK gave the Ich bin ein Berliner speech. His interpreter kept going even when he said the things, was ist nach Berlin kommen, his interpreter would keep saying, thank you for translating my JFK. I should practice my JFK translation, but thank you for translating my English, my German. And I also changed the English for that same reason, that it was written for a German audience, but here I could get some of the flavor of, say, New York street slang or stuff that you couldn't do and expect the German audience. There was a question here, a couple of first, and then.
I was going to ask a question about that because in the interview about those changes that you made, you said that you wouldn't have done that if you didn't have access to the author of the book. And I was wondering about that because these things, like the basketball thing and the geographical location of the street that is nowhere near
Right.
ground zero. Like those are factual issues in a certain sense that a New York reader would notice. And I was wondering if you could comment on how you feel about changing things without the author.
Right. Yeah, there was those kind of intervention. There were some other types too, that where I find that, you know, if I had chosen to, if this book had been a German classic, which, you know, 50 years from now, if I were translating 50 years from now when this book is a German classic, but it's never been translated into English before, I might take into account a whole different set of circumstances. You know, at this point, this author might be the subject of great curiosity and attention, maybe a huge scholarly literature and so on, and I might find it more interesting, in fact, that his vision of New York was a little skewed. You know, in the first chapter of Kafka's America, the Statue of Liberty is holding a sword, and had a translator sort of thought, oh, that's just an error. You know, people would never have begun to speculate, oh, maybe he did know, but he thought it was allegorically interesting to make it a sword. You know, if they had just erased completely that strangeness. And so there's a very big difference between looking retrospectively at an author, when you choose to translate because you consider their work to be worthy of translation and their career to be interesting as a whole and so on, and translating with somebody who's still actively involved in the book, who in fact still hasn't done the paperback version in German, so that some of these changes made it into the paperback version. So the book is still an evolving thing rather than a sort of monument to itself. With the Josef Roth that I did, for instance, this book was translated in 1931. I did a translation of Josef Roth's joke. He's dead, obviously. The book was written in 1930, translated in 31. In 31, the translator probably did an okay job, but they had no sense of the whole arc of Roth's career, so all his previous books had been kind of journalists.